Mark, certainly in terms of the ticket sales and the sense of occasion, is going to be another big one tomorrow night. It's going to have similar elements, I guess, from Ipswich at the weekend, a big occasion, yeah.
Yeah, certainly hope so. I hope we're close to a sellout. Makes a big difference, and I think it's great for us to have those experiences as players and staff to play in that atmosphere, but also good for supporters to feel that as well. And there were moments of the game that were outstanding. Certainly the end. People go away very happy, and some of the footage that's gone around of those celebrating afterwards was quite good to watch. So yeah, hopefully we get another night where we've got a number of people there. We can put on a good performance, and like we did on Saturday, ultimately try and take something from the game. But it's certainly a big one that we're looking forward to, and now to find that rhythm of being back in consecutive games and playing regularly. That will challenge us, of course, as a squad over the next month. But at the same time, you kind of like those periods where you haven't got too long to think between one game and the next. And tomorrow will be a real challenging one for us that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, we mentioned the sense of a standing start ahead of Saturday's game. Does it make a huge difference that you've had Saturday ahead of Tuesday night?
Well, we'll see. You'd like to think so. You certainly can't replicate what Saturday was like in terms of the intensity of the game and the atmosphere in any of the 2 weeks building up to it. And you see a difference in the early part of the game between the team that have played and found a good rhythm and the team that hasn't. But we got our way into the game and hung in there and found a way where we did all right, actually, in periods of the first half and certainly in the second half. So hopefully that stands us in good stead, and we're ready for that intensity again. And we're better for and wiser for that experience of playing in an atmosphere that is as busy as that one. And hopefully that will pay dividends for us tomorrow.
Do you think there is a sense with all sides in League One, even the very best ones, even the teams with the greatest resources, that they'll struggle to hit you with their best play for huge parts of the game? Sometimes at certain points, Ipswich were well on top and looked really, really good. But is it hard for any League One side to really sustain that? And if you can stay mentally strong, is it possible to ride it through?
Yeah, I think when you look at football at any level, there's very few teams that can dominate a game from start to finish. It doesn't usually happen like that. What we have to do is recognise, firstly, not to get anxious in the moments when the momentum is with the opposition. Learn how to control and manage that phase, and then not turn down any moment. There's so many moments in a period under pressure where you can turn the game back. And it can be the smallest of things: a completed pass, a tackle, a dribble up the end of the pitch. Sustaining the attack for 10, 20, 30 seconds can be a turning point. And probably in the first half, we had quite a few moments where we might have been able to do that, and we didn't do it. And we surrendered possession quite quickly, partly because we were flustered and under pressure, and the intensity of Ipswich's play caused us those problems. But they're the moments that we've got to get better at, so that we can try and sustain our own periods of pressure for longer. And we've had spells in games where we've been dominant and controlling for good periods. And even in a first half where it felt on Saturday under massive pressure for long periods, when you watch that game back, we have spells ourselves. They're not as long as we want to be, or not as productive as we want them to be, but we have them. And we look back at a second half where we feel like we were dominant, but actually Ipswich have some good periods in that half as well. So the game does to and fro. I think that's how it works, and we have to make sure that we're as productive as we can be in our phases and destructive as we can be in theirs.
What do you make of Sheffield Wednesday as a side? Clearly had a good start, not quite so strong of late, just the 2 wins from 8. Yeah,
a solid enough start. I think in terms of their league position, they're really in touch with those playoff positions. Look, I guess when you're a club the size of that, like a few that we will play this year, their expectation is to be in first spot. So there's a pressure on them every single game that they play. Defeats get looked into far greater, and the pressure builds far faster than in clubs with different expectations. You know, we know this year when we play against the likes of Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday, our fights aren't their fights. We're probably looking for different things this year, but what we can do is we can compete with these teams. We have to try and make sure that the pressure on them to come and win games forces them and makes them force the issue. And we have to try and make sure that we force the issue at the right times ourselves as well. They've got some strong individuals, as you'd expect, players that are well versed and have played a lot of football in the Championship. So we know that creates individual quality in the games that can cause any team at this level, I think, problems. And they've had a little bit of a fluctuation in the way in which they've played and the systems they've played, so we can't be certain of that going into the game. But I think we can be certain that we know it's a tough game, but one that we want to try and be forceful in if we can be.
Let's take a look at the team news. Always tricky when we're talking first thing on a Monday, but let's start with Joe Ironside, dead leg at the weekend. I guess the expectation would be he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think so. Speaking to a few of the boys yesterday, they seem to be okay. It's usual match day bumps and bruises. So I think with him, he should be okay. I think Diggers took a whack, as he does every game. Dimmy with his back. All of those would have settled down yesterday. We haven't seen them today. We hope to get them out on the grass this morning and have everybody pretty much available that was available on Saturday. We're hopeful that all of them can be available again, but we're going to have to see how people get through the session this morning, which creates a challenge because you want to go into the session knowing the team, and hopefully we can do it by the time we've seen everyone before we're out on the grass.
Did Dimmy do his back with his couple of slips during the first half?
I don't know actually how he did it, but he's just went into a bit of a spasm in the second half. So I don't actually know the point of that, where that came about. But I think that's settled down. He's on anti-inflammatory, so hopefully he's okay to train today.
Does Jack Lancaster have a chance, or is it too soon for him?
No, he'll be out running today, but he won't be fit for selection Tuesday and probably not Saturday, I would have thought, because he won't have been able to get some training in. So the sooner we can get him back up to speed and contributing to the squad, the better, because obviously we're in a busy month, a couple of cup games coming up in there, so we just need to make sure we've got everybody, or as many as possible, for that challenge.
And we know the situation with Wes Houlihan. We can play the usual game. I'm sure you'll keep your cards close to your chest, but one thing you have had over the past month is actually a little bit of experience of experimenting with different options to counter not having Wes around, so you have that in the bag.
Yeah, and we'll have to continue doing that, I think, in the next month. We haven't got a huge amount of wide options at the moment, so we might have to look at something different, or different players playing in wide areas or playing a more narrow shape. That will be something we're going to have to look at and think about. We're probably going to have to change shape from game to game or in game. We're probably going to have to freshen up and change starting 11s at some point during this month to try and keep everybody as available as we can do. Wes played his first 90 for 5 weeks on Saturday, so he'll be better for that in the weeks ahead. I wouldn't discount him from any of the Tuesdays that we've got coming up, but it'll be tough for him to turn around from Saturday for tomorrow. So we'll see how he shapes up and make a call from there.
And just looking more generally at the FA Cup, I know it's a couple of weeks away, but Northampton away, the first round tie, we had the draw yesterday. Probably the most notable thing there, you've now got quite a run in that period of away matches.
Yeah, I mean, 7 out of the next 8 games away from home, so that creates a challenge. I think the fact that I'd have wanted a home game, but if we get a close away one, I think you'd be fairly satisfied with that. The good thing that week is, for us, we go to Northampton, then Stevenage, then Milton Keynes. So we're not travelling far in that week, which is really important. Morecambe midweek gives us an overnight game and a longer travel. And then we'll travel overnight to Shrewsbury and to Rotherham as well, in either side of all of those. So got a lot of travelling to do in that period of time, or a lot of games on the road, but it could be worse, certainly. And we'll be as best prepared as we can for that. Straight on to Mr. Calderwood after that draw yesterday to have a little bit of a pre-FA Cup banter early doors. So work out where he's going to take me for a beer afterwards. But other than that, we'll take it, and we'll get ready for that busy run that we've got. Obviously 2 cup games sandwiched between it, but right now we've got 5 league games in the next fortnight that are big games for us.
Cool, that's great for me.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah. Hi, Mark. Obviously wanted to ask about the recent early goals that you've been conceding in games. Why do you think you're not starting games well at the minute?
Well, I actually think some of the games we are starting okay, but we're just creating our own issues with a goal. So goals don't always necessarily follow the flow of the game. We've had some games, we can see 2 fairly early goals at Crewe. We have the best chance before they score, and we could be 1 up in that game. So there are certain games where we're starting better, and then a moment's gone against us, or we've been punished. I think overall, we would look at the defensive record in the last batch of games compared to the first batch in the season, and of course we want to be more resolute and stronger. What we know is good players at the level will punish us if we give them those situations. So some of it's concentration, some of it's just organisation on certain things with restarts and how we've given up opportunities simply to the other team, whether that's on a set play or a free kick or a throw-in. Or so a little bit's game management, a little bit's. I think Saturday, the start of the game, the tempo just hit us really quickly, and we struggled in the early part of the game, and we struggled to get a foot on it, and then we get a bit spooked by the whole thing, and we calmed ourselves and slowed ourselves and actually reset ourselves quite well. But you can't hide away from the record of number of goals conceded early at the moment. And actually, with our record when we go in front, with our record coming from behind, and with our record of scoring 8 goals, if we can solve that and stop that being such an issue, we know we'll be in a really good position to turn some of these draws into wins, which is ultimately what we want to try and do.
Yeah, is there anything you can do as a management team to set the team up to try and solve that problem?
Well, we don't set out to start like that. So obviously, we're always trying to be the team that can be more forceful, be the team that can score the first goal, be the team that can get on top and control the opposition when they've got it, and all those bits and pieces. So the short answer is yes, I guess, because there's always something, and you keep trying those different things. But there's also an individual bit of responsibility for everyone to make sure they're focused and concentrated and making good decisions when things are really tense or fast, or the atmospheres are what they are, and some of those are new experiences for lots of us. So I think those things will come good. I think over 18 months, pretty much any test or challenge that's come our way, or any lesson that we've had to learn, we have done very well. So I'm quite confident that we can solve that as one. But you know the way I look at things. I mean, it's really easy to look at the problem. I'm incredibly proud of the fact, and we should never take for granted, we've got a team that goes the distance, that scores late goals, and that can recover from losing positions, because that isn't always the way. And the organisation, togetherness and spirit of this team should be applauded massively. So as much emphasis should be put on that as is put on us conceding early goals. We know the problem, we've got to try and solve it, but let's not lose sight of what we have got at a level that is really challenging and testing for us.
Is that something that you can particularly use to your advantage as well tomorrow? I was reading in the build-up to the game about Sheffield Wednesday. They seem to be having a problem of conceding late goals at the minute, and obviously you score a lot of late goals, so that's something you can use to your benefit.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to set a game plan around the last 15 minutes. That's the problem. So we've got to probably try and make sure that we're, for the first 75, in a better position in games, that we're not reliant on that. It gives us a confidence and a belief knowing that we're always in a game. I think that's important. You certainly don't set up to try and exploit that, but it gives you confidence during the game if you get into those levels in games that you know you can chase and win games late on. And of course, maybe the opposition, if they're aware of that, have that in their mind as well as the latter stages come around.
With Sheffield Wednesday as well, how do you expect them to set up, and what do you make of their style of play and things like that?
Yeah, I think they're a bit mixed at the moment. They've got one or two that have been out of the team that's weakened them, but they've still got an array of options. They've got lots of wide players available to them, but have been playing a back three the last couple of games, had a win and a draw out of that. Been a lot of the season 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, but been a back three the last couple of games. So there's a little bit probably of uncertainty. How do they start? How do they play? And what the style of play looks like. Like all the teams in this league, they've got some really good attacking options. Lee Gregory, Sado Barahino, Patterson up front. They're all players that can cause you a problem. They've got some good experience through the team. Barry Bannon's a good playmaker for them. Lewis Wing in the middle of the pitch gives them a really good experience as well. And throughout the team defensively, I think they're a big and athletic unit. So there's no doubt that you know that they've got individuals that can cause you a problem, and they should have. But we have to try and find our own way of putting our stamp on the game.
And how much are you looking forward to the occasion of what should be another really good crowd tomorrow night and under the lights as well?
Yeah, I love it. I love the atmosphere at home games under lights. I think it's classy. You can't quite beat it. And I hope that the atmosphere is great and that the supporters are really there from start to finish. Whatever happens, they're just there backing us and in our corner, because I think that does make a significant difference to the players. You're always balancing the bit between getting wrapped up in occasions, because lots of them are new for us, and just doing your job. So there's a fine line between those two things, being emotionally connected to the night, but not hijacked by it. I think that's important. We used that as a phrase last season, and there's a little bit of that in us this year. And then I can never get away from my own little things. That the last time I watched Cambridge play Sheffield Wednesday was in 1998 in the Worthington Cup, I think at the time, when there was 2 legs. The year that we played Notts Forest, it came from 3-0 down away from home and then lost the penalty shootout. But first leg was at Hillsborough. 3 minutes in, the ball gets slid through. Kevin Pressman gets caught on the ball in the Sheffield Wednesday goal. Trevor Benjamin slots in to go 1-0 up. Unbelievable scenes as a Cambridge fan that day at Hillsborough. And then we play in the home leg. We draw 1-1. Benito Carboni and Paolo Di Canio were playing for Sheffield Wednesday. And I went to the front of the stadium at the end of the day with a little mate of mine. I think I was 12 or 13. And Danny Wilson was the manager of Sheffield Wednesday, and he invited me on the team bus to go meet their team and got loads of autographs from both sides. What a great day that was. I think they're the moments that you remember as a kid growing up, and that they're the strengths of a small club like ours. You're always really close to the action. That's why I love a night that's packed and has a significant atmosphere to it. So, yeah, it's those sorts of nights that you like, those occasions. You know, I remember 20 years on so vividly those nights. And I think as a football fan, you're always hoping for memories and things. And we've created quite a few in the last 18 months. We want to keep doing it.
As a manager, how do you take those memories and those kind of things and try and distance yourself from it as a manager, obviously having been a fan first?
Yeah, I mean, that's the first time I've talked about it in 20 years. So it's quite easy, to be honest. It just comes into your head when you think about those games. So yeah, I'm emotionally attached to the team and the opportunities that we've got and the challenges that we've got, but I'm not a fan anymore. I love Cambridge United. I'm not a fan. I'm the manager and a professional and got a job to do. So all that occasion and emotional stuff is always an underlying emotion, an underlying drive and motivation for me, and a pride in doing the job, but never distracted by that at all, because in the end, you've got 22 players on a football pitch that are going to slog it out and try and give their best for some points.
Cheers, Mark.
Mark, when you look at Sheffield Wednesday, as you said, they're a team that would be expecting to be at or near the top of the table. You've already beaten teams like that. You beat Bolton. You drew the game with Ipswich, who certainly would fancy themselves to be one of the bigger clubs in this division. Even Burton, who might be a smaller club, but have been in the championship recently. Do you think the results you got against those teams shows how well you've adapted to life in League One so far?
Yeah, I think we can be pleased with how we've adapted to the challenges so far, and we've taken some really big results along the way. Some of those have been points, some of those have been victories, some at home, some away. There's been a real balance, and I think when you look at the league table, it's quite clustered at the moment. There's a lot of results to and fro from one team to the next. Our next task is to firstly remain consistent at competing in games and turn some of those draws into wins. And that's a big challenge for us, but we've certainly shown that we can do that so far, and we have to keep finding the confidence from that to deliver the best of what we can in these games, but also never lose the humility of how hard we've got to work and that we cannot afford to not be at our best in this level. So I think there's a nice balance between those two things for us, but certainly we've adjusted well so far, as early as it is.
When you look at Sheffield Wednesday, you mentioned some of the players they have, Barry Bannon, Saito Berahino. What do you think will be the keys in order for you guys to get the result that you want?
Yeah, I guess there's two major, fairly basic and obvious things. We're going to have to defend our penalty box really, really well, because we know that they've got goal threats. So whether that's as a unit or 1 versus 1 or defending set plays and crosses, we're going to have to make sure we're excellent when it gets to that part of the pitch. But the second side of that is to try and make sure that we don't spend too long having to do that and seeing how much we can affect their defensive line, how often we can be in the attacking half in possession of the ball, how well we sustain those attacks and what we make of it, how productive we are. So in the end, there'll be a lot goes on between the two boxes, and we're going to have to be strong and aggressive and dominant and good with the ball and all those things. But the fundamental two ends of the pitch that matter most, we're going to have to make sure we deliver in those positions to take something from the game.
You mentioned that after this match, 7 of the next 8 are away from the Abbey Stadium. Do you put any extra emphasis on this match, considering that you're going to be away from home for so many matches coming up?
Not so much. I don't think you can overemphasize any game. This game as an occasion looks after itself. we just want to try and take points from any game, and we believe we can do that home and away. So our away form's been good over the last 18 months, and that's something that we'll look to try and keep going over the next month. So between those two, all the games that we've got coming up, our outcomes and our objectives will be very, very similar, because we try not to distinguish home and away too much. We just try and be as competitive as we can and point score from as many games as possible.
Great. Cheers, Mark.
Thank you.